Did Melvin Gordon drop a big hint? Is a quarterback controversy possible in the Big Apple? I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup for Thursday, August 18th, 2022.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Starting at quarterback today is the Giants' Daniel Jones. But will he be getting all the first-team reps? The Giants are going to give Jones a chance to write his career in 2022, but head coach Brian Daboll gave another indication that his leash could be quite short while he tries to revive his career. Daboll told reporters that the Giants are planning to give backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor reps with their first-team offense in their remaining preseason games, which came just one day after Daniel Jones completed just 6 of 20 passes with 2 interceptions in an August 15th practice. The Giants declined Jones's fifth-year option earlier this offseason, which came after New York signed one of the league's top backup quarterbacks in Tyrod Taylor. Danny Dimes could be set up for failure with Kadarius Toney struggling to get healthy with a knee injury, and he's reportedly shown very little chemistry with Kenny Golladay after their miserable 2021 campaign. Now, I'm told by someone in the know that Jones is having confidence issues and is struggling to pick up Daboll's offense. And in fact, he's really the opposite of Josh Allen personality-wise. Allen loved being coached hard, but it's possible that the last few years under moronic coaches have broken Jones. And Daboll can say all he wants, but the fact that Tyrod is potentially getting first-team reps is absolutely not a good sign in my mind. You mean to tell me that Jones, in his first offseason, in a new offense, in a make-or-break year for his career, can't use all the reps he can get? After some good vibes earlier in the offseason, I'm beginning to back off of being relatively bullish on the Giants because this is not a good sign. In fact, our Tom Brawley has picked under 21.5 touchdowns for Daniel Jones as one of his best future bets of the offseason. At running back, the Broncos might not have the co-starters that we fear. Veteran running back Melvin Gordon told reporters on Wednesday that his injured foot, he had a minor contusion, is no longer bothering him, Zach Stevens of the DNVR reports. That, of course, is not the biggest takeaway fantasy Twitter had from Gordon's media availability. Per Stevens, Gordon has acknowledged that Javonte Williams is the Broncos' top back. Quote, they want Vontae to probably be the guy, Gordon said of Williams, getting the first running back reps at Broncos practices. But we do rotate, Gordon immediately added. But the dam has already busted. Gordon is a really smart guy who obviously knows what fans and fantasy players are saying. He even had a press conference last year. This is when I felt really bad, by the way, and I'm not a tweet. Do not go tweet at your disappointing fantasy players, by the way. That's really a lame thing to do. Well, that's because Melvin Gordon had a press conference last year when he acknowledged that some fans want him to go away and just let Williams take over, which really was unfair because Gordon was reliable and productive a season ago. But regardless of Gordon's role potentially shrinking, he re-signed with Denver because he's comfortable with the Broncos and wants to win a Super Bowl, he said. Here is more of what he said in his media availability per Zach Stevens. Quote, I just want to put my best foot forward. When I do get out there, they be like, okay, we need to get him out there more. I know I got the game. I know I can play. I still got the juice. Hack, meaning Coach Nathaniel Hackett, told me coming in, at the end of the day, it's about Super Bowls. We're going to do anything that is best for the team. I bought into that 100% because I want the ring more than anything. But I do feel like I helped the team. When I get in, I got to show that. Look, nobody in their right mind expects Javonte to get 100% of the snaps or even 75% of them because Gordon is too solid for that. And Hackett does like to rotate his running backs, as we saw in Green Bay last year. But this is yet another reminder that Williams is a stunningly gifted 22-year-old, while Gordon is 29 with over 1,800 touches on his tires. Their ADPs reflect that. A lot of folks don't want to miss the boat on a potential Javonte breakout, and that's understandable. At our other running back spot, let's get an update on J.K. Dobbins. Coach John Harbaugh said on Wednesday that it's too early to know if Dobbins will play in Week 1, Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic reports. Dobbins had a serious knee injury that was more than just a simple, and I'm using that lightly, but it was more than just a simple ACL tear. Per the Ravens official website, Harbaugh said last week that Dobbins, quote, leg got real tired, this is on August 10th, just through the individual period because he's been rehabbing. Dobbins is still taking days off of practice as he rehabs the injury, though Harbaugh said on Wednesday that, quote, the improvement's tangible from where Dobbins was last week. Harbaugh said that the Ravens measure Dobbins' speed, deceleration, and other aspects of his game, and that is where Baltimore has seen the improvement. But it's still noteworthy that Dobbins hasn't seen any time at all in team drills as of yet, and hasn't played contact football in nearly a full calendar year. The clock is ticking on Dobbins being available for the start of the season, and perhaps longer for him to be the lead dog in the backfield. If Dobbins is out or limited early in the season, veteran Mike Davis is expected to be the Ravens' lead back. As for the rest of the Ravens, at least something positive came out of Dobbins' tragic injury suffered during a meaningless preseason game last year. Per ESPN's Jamison Hensley, since Dobbins suffered that injury, Baltimore has been more cautious in playing its top players in the preseason. Quarterback Lamar Jackson and tight end Mark Andrews both will not play on Sunday in Arizona, Hensley wrote, according to Harbaugh. Jackson and Andrews were also held out of last week's preseason opener, Hensley writes. Another man coming off a torn ACL is in our first wide receiver spot. Per The Athletic's Greg Allman, Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin participated in 7-on-7 drills for the first time in training camp in Tuesday's practice. Godwin tore his ACL in December, so he's just 8 months removed from the injury, and per Allman, the Buccaneers are making slow, careful progress with his rehab. This is certainly a positive step for Godwin, but let's not call it something it isn't. There's no guarantee Godwin is 100% or even playing at all in Week 1. Remember that on August 5th, back when Godwin was first activated from the PUP list, Coach Todd Bowles told reporters that the Bucs were, quote, not getting their hopes up when it came to Godwin being ready for the start of the season, and that he was a long way from returning to practice in full. Bowles seems to be a man of his word because it took 11 days for Godwin to even progress to 7-on-7s. Because of the lack of clarity on when he will be available, plus the bizarre Tom Brady situation, Godwin is currently the wide receiver 28 on Underdog Fantasy. That may rise slowly, but most fantasy players are anticipating Godwin being slow off the mark, and rightfully so. We spent a lot of time with the Chiefs wide receivers on this program, so, let's go back to the well for our other wide receiver spot. Speedster Mecole Hardman left Wednesday's practice with a groin injury, Herbie Teope of the Kansas City Star reports. Per Pete Sweeney of Arrowhead Pride, Hardman exited practice in the front of a golf cart. Now, allow me to use this as a Dolan disclaimer. And I hope you take this Dolan disclaimer for the rest of the summer and into next year's training camp. Not all examples of carted off during training camp are created equal, as players will ride a cart into the facility for even minor discomfort. It is not like during a game. Now, does that mean a guy can't be carted off for a serious injury? Of course not. But there are a lot of times when a minor injury requires the cart to come out in training camp, because why the heck, when they're available, would you have a guy walk even if he's got a minor injury back to the facility? Nonetheless, Hardman's status must be monitored. And the Chiefs are suddenly thin at wide receiver in practices, with Juju Smith-Schuster also out while nursing knee soreness. We talked about that on yesterday's program. That one's kind of giving me the willies. NFL Network's James Palmer said that the Chiefs do not believe Hardman's injury to be serious, but the team is also doing further tests to learn the extent of the injury. By most accounts, Hardman has been having a pretty strong camp, playing a lesser version of the Tyreek Hill role. All the injuries the Chiefs have at the position now will lead to more reps for rookie Sky Moore and deep sleeper Justin Watson, who appears well in line to make Kansas City's final roster, for those of you in deeper leagues. Finally, in our flex spot, we have an update on Kenneth Walker. Remember that whole spiel I gave yesterday about sports hernias? Well, forget about it, because it appears Walker has an actual hernia. an inguinal hernia, per reporting from NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. And Walker had on Wednesday what Coach Pete Carroll described as a procedure. Thanks, Pete. In all seriousness, Rappaport's reporting cleared up the comments well enough for our Dr. Edwin Porras. While Dr. Porras told me that inguinal hernias are not his specialty, as he's a fair physical therapist and more likely to treat sports hernias, he did explain the situation and gave me a basic timeline of recovery. In short, it is indeed possible Walker is ready for week 1, as Rappaport said. An inguinal hernia occurs, and this is really a nasty thing. I had one of these when I was 3 years old and can't imagine having it now. It occurs when the intestine protrudes through the abdominal muscles, and it could have been picked up when Walker was lifting weights. Rappaport also reported that it's possible Walker was practicing and playing through the injury, which shows his toughness, but also Walker's luck, as a ruptured hernia would have been far worse and wouldn't have such a benign prognosis. While Walker being ready for week 1 is realistic, per Dr. Porras, recovery could also take up to 6 weeks, so continue to monitor this situation. His ADP is likely to fall, while Rashad Penny is back from his groin injury suffered last week and will certainly start in week 1 if he's healthy. Even if Walker is back in week 1, his odds of being a major contributor out of the gate have shrunk. I'm Joe Dolan. This has been the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup. Remember to head to fantasypoints.com for all your fantasy draft needs and use code LINEUP22 for an extra 10% off any package. And by the way, our rookie prospect guide, including all of Greg Cosell's rookie evaluations and Wes Huber's Devy profiles, is already discounted a further 60% in celebration of the start of the fantasy football season, and it is a must-read for Dynasty players. You will love it. Catch you tomorrow, everyone, on the Daily Lineup.